Hey, BassGeek here, and today we're doing a Keep'r Cull, and we're asking, does this thing really help anything? So Keep'r Cull is back, but first, I want to ask you, if you haven't already, shop BassGeek, go get you a shirt. Go get you a hoodie. It's about to be winter time, and I love to go winter fishing, and I will break out my BassGeek hoodie. So go pick you one up. They are very well made. There's also two different types. There's a cheaper version, which is still well made, and there is a higher end version, which is very well made. So get out to shop BassGeek. Make sure you at least pick up a t-shirt. There's some long sleeves. There's different kinds of t-shirts out there. And, you know, just help support the channel. We're going to put all this stuff back into the channel. You know, buying things like drones and cameras that fall in the water, because if you take cameras out or phones out with you, it's inevitable. It will happen. Rods, you guys have seen it on the channel. You know, about anything eventually. Costa sunglasses, yeah, I lost those too, so you know, it is what it is. Anyway, all that being said, now let's talk about this little device, and I want to give you a little bit of background because I'm only stating what I know and the experiences that I've had with this little device. Now, I'll be absolutely honest with you, I don't even know who makes it. I guess it's just Hydrowave, if it's TH Marine that owns it, or whoever. Anyway, so, you know, I understand how it works. I mean, you know, I know how calls in general work, you know, turkey calls, rattling horns for deer. And I could see the concept of this and how it would work underwater, especially underwater, because sound does travel farther, faster, and louder underwater. So I do get the concept of it, but you know, I think like most people, we're all fairly skeptical about it, and so I wanted to put it through my own test. Now, I will say right off the bat, the price of these things brand new, come on guys, it's a daggum speaker. I know it goes underwater, that's impressive. And it's a little box. I mean, I'd almost challenge my buddy Jeremy to build one of these things. And I bet we could sell it a hell of a lot cheaper than this. Now, I know there's a lot to be said with it, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, but I don't even know the price. I'll put the price right here, but I know it ain't cheap. So what I ended up doing, instead of paying for something that I wasn't sure that was really going to work, is I just looked around for someone selling a used one, and I got lucky because people don't sell them. I mean, they don't sell them a lot, but this is the first rendition, so I don't have the latest, greatest, the newest. You know what I mean, how much more could it do? And I've looked at them and I've seen them, and I know you've got, you know, the little modules, and you can get the crawdads crawling across. That's a little much in my opinion. So when do I use it, and when do I see that it's most effective? Well guys, the first thing I want to tell you is I don't believe this thing gets the fish active. I think it fires up the bait fish, the shad. Shad, shiners, whatever. All I can speak for again is the lakes that I fish, and they're loaded with shad. Now, do I think it's going to fire up some bluegill? I don't think there's a setting for that. Some shiners, I don't really know that there's shiners in my lake, so I use the shad setting all the time. So I have noticed at times when the shad are active, or when the bass are feeding on the shad, that it does tend to get those shad a lot more active. And in turn, when it gets those shad more active, well, yeah, the bass tend to follow suit. I don't remember who it was I was listening to or watching just the other day, but they were talking about, you know, you've been at a boat dock or you've been up shallow sitting there, you know, waiting to do something, and you see these bluegill and you see these bass, and they're all just hanging out there, nice and cordial all together. And then all of a sudden, for some unknown reason, one of those bluegill just, they go ape, you know, and all of a sudden that triggers the bass. So I think at times that's what this does. Now, does it help you catch fish? Well, I'm going to give you the pros and the cons to that. So I'm going to give you the pros first. When the bass are actively feeding on shad, yeah, I think this gets the bass fired up, or it gets the shad fired up, and it can sometimes fire up the bass to react to that. I can give you examples of times where I think this came into play. Today was one of them. I know that the bass on this lake are feeding on shad, at least the deep schools. So I know that if they hear, or if there's shad around, and there was shad around in every instance, if they hear shad feeding or shad activity, I think it does get them kind of wanting to investigate a little more, and maybe just a touch more willing to bite shad type baits. Now, do I think, you know, again, I've not tried the whole jig thing. I just don't, I'm really skeptical of that. During the winter time, during the Demiki bite, especially early in the year when they're really active. So when the bass are really just inactive, they're not feeding, I don't think this helps. I don't think it helps at all. I think it will fire or refire a school or a group of fish up when they are actively feeding throughout the day. When it's fall, when it's late fall, early winter. Let's talk about even during the summer when they first move out deep. I think this will get them fired up. I don't think it'll fire up inactive fish. Hands down, flat out. I don't believe it. I haven't seen it. I've had this for 2 years now. Maybe the new one is better, and it sweet talks those lazy bass into, wanting to feed. But, I don't think it fires up inactive bass. I think if they're not feeding, they're not feeding. And there could be 2,000 shad around, and this thing could go off. And I still just don't think they're going to feed. If they're dormant, if they're totally inactive, I don't think this thing has a leg to stand on. And that's a we're talking about pros. That's definitely a con. Does it get me more bites when they are active? I'm going to say yes. When they are really active, and let's say I pull up on a spot, maybe I've just missed. And again, today was a great example of that. Let's say I pull up on a spot and I just missed the real heavy feeding frenzy, and they're kind of settling down, but those shad are back out there. I think we can cut this on, and it'll get them amped up, and so you may be able to get 1 or 2 bites that maybe you wouldn't have got. Now, here's a big negative for me, because again, I fish a lot of deep stuff. During the summer, I was really excited to use this. And what I found, and what I find even during the winter, and what I found today, is that this draws the bass to the speaker. So I think what you end up with is bass kind of coming to you. I don't know if they think the shadow of the boat is just a large school of shad on the surface, if they're just following that sound. So one of the problems when you're fishing deep schools, to me, is that if you just run this thing continuously, you really run it wide open, you know, you're pulling the fish off the structure or off where you want them to be to make that cast. Now, the good news is that it doesn't happen immediately, and I'll tell you what I've discovered. What I've discovered is that I like to put it on 30-second intervals. I like to run the volume depending on depth and size of the area, about 3/4 of the way up. So 3/4 of the way from max to completely maxed out. I generally run shad frenzy or feeding frenzy, shad feeding frenzy every time. And I put it on a 30-second delay. This doesn't have a minute delay. And I'll run it for about 3 to 5 rotations. Because I think if you run it any longer than that, you start pulling the fish off and they start coming to you. So I do this during the wintertime too. So when a lot of times I'll put it on pause, and right when I get over top of those fish and I see them on my graph, boom, I hit play and then I drop. And again, I don't know if they think the boat or whatever, the shadow of the boat is, you know, some shad moving over top of them, but generally I will blast them when that happens. I drop that Demiki rig down and you can see them come up. Now again, it's early. As we get later in the year, if they're dormant and they're sitting on the bottom, I find that it almost does the opposite and has the opposite effect. That it's almost like they know that those shad are way too cold to be that active. Now there's other settings, and I've tried those, you know, but it's still, you know, it doesn't work. I've adjusted the volume, and I have not had that much success with the other settings. So generally fall, or maybe early spring. I haven't had a lot of success early spring, but generally post spawn, summer a little, fall a lot, and fall is really where it stands out. You know, you can really get those fish fired up and really enjoy bites that I think maybe you might miss, or you might miss out on later in the day. Like I said, cons, to me, if you play it too much, or you're not really operating it right, you're not giving it short bursts and then kind of cutting it off, it pulls the fish to you. That's great if you're vertical fishing, of course. If you're vertical fishing, I think that's, you know, of course, that's exactly what you want. Does it fire up inactive bass? No. Does it fire up inactive shad? No. So to me, it's a very tight window that you have for this to work. Now, let's decide if we're going to keep it, if we're going to cull this thing out. So the deal is, guys, for mine, I definitely keep it. If I had to buy it new, if it didn't come with the boat, if I didn't buy it used at a better price, guys, the price is just so restrictive in my opinion. I mean, if I'm going to get a new boat, I'm going to go ahead and have them put one on there. I'm just going to kind of roll it all in together. I'm going to go ahead and have them put one on there. Kind of the same thing with my graphs. But if you buy it used, absolutely keep it. Absolutely keep it. Use it the way I just talked about. And I know I'm going to get a lot of hate on this, but if I have to buy it new, this is a cull, man. I'm not paying what they want for this thing new. It's just not used enough for me to pay what they want for this brand new out of the box. All right, guys, you know, I know haters gonna hate on me, and I'm all about learning stuff. So if you're gonna come and you're gonna hate, at least explain to me and give areas where you feel like it absolutely worked. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm gonna be pretty skeptical because I've used it for 2 years myself. Maybe the new one is better, you know, I don't know. But all that being said, you know, let me know ways that you found that it works. You know, guys, I like to fish a certain way, and sometimes that certain way, does it fit into that certain way? Yes, sometimes no. You guys may like to fish a different way. Let me know how it fits in to your style of fishing if you do things differently than me and have discovered that it works at different times. Now, like I say, questions and comments in the comment section below. And yes, used, keep, new, cull that sucker. Don't bother with it. Just to be clear on that. So, questions and comments in the comment section below. You guys know I love to talk about fishing with you and fishing goodies and equipment. Like it if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. Make sure you ring that bell when those notifications come out so you can make sure you're keeping up with each and every video. And I do need you watching each and every video. It helps so much. It helps grow the channel. It helps YouTube, you know, say, hey, this BassGeek guy, he's alive and he has a YouTube channel. That's pretty much all they say. He's alive. He's over there. You know, he's got some views. Cool. And, you know, it helps me kind of stick out to other people, you know, companies that hopefully help me do good things for you guys. And hopefully you guys see that I enjoy giving back. I enjoy using my sponsors and the things that they give me to help you guys out. All right. Anyway, you know what I'm trying to say. You guys rock.